Big storms are coming to the United States through the rest of this week and into the weekend, and they will provide a threat for severe weather with damaging winds, large to very large hail, and tornadoes, in addition to some locally heavy downpours, which could cause some flooding on area roadways, creeks, streams, and low-lying areas. We're going to get you all the information you need to know in this forecast. Also, we are looking at a major heat wave and the tropical weather update, so make sure if you're here to subscribe to the channel first and foremost. You get daily weather breakdowns on the channel. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, family member on social media. It helps to get all this vital information to more and more people. And if you have a comment, question, or concern, make sure to jot that down in the comment section down below this video. I'm here 24/7, all day, all night to answer any and all questions, comments, concerns you do have. We are looking here at a slight risk of severe weather in two separate areas today. One area into the Midwest, including portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, southern Minnesota, and Iowa, and another area from the Carolinas down through most of Georgia, southeastern Alabama, and northwestern Florida, with a marginal risk in dark green, where isolated severe thunderstorms will be possible there in the dark green area. Biggest threat for today will be damaging winds. Wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour is likely into the yellow shaded color, including Des Moines, Omaha, all the way up towards Sioux Falls, and then down across the southeast from Raleigh down into Columbia, Atlanta, into the Montgomery area, and Panama City as we go into this afternoon and evening. The secondary threat for hail, that could be up to quarter size. Now, with the heat at the surface and aloft, it will limit the hail growth across portions of the Midwest, but also the high plains, and also into the southeast. So in the brown, that's a low probability of up to quarter size hail as we go into the afternoon and evening. And there is a tornado risk. It is not very high, but it's also low, and it's not zero. It's across portions of Des Moines, Omaha, back toward Lincoln, and into southern portions of Minnesota. So be watching out for a tornado threat evolving this afternoon and this evening. Let's look here at the threat for severe weather, and the storm energy across the Midwest is up over 3,000 joules per kilogram, especially centered across East Nebraska and central Iowa this afternoon and evening. So here at noon, we have a cluster on the northern end of the boundary. This is where the more stable air is, as you can imagine, with the rain-cooled air, Minneapolis over toward La Crosse, and that's where we're going to be seeing some rumbles of thunder along with that here through the noon hour. Going into the middle afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, that's when we're going to start to see thunderstorms develop there from southeastern Minnesota, northern Iowa, back into central Nebraska. Those storms will initially be posing a risk for locally heavy downpours and some cloud to ground lightning, but as these storms grow more mature, they could produce some 70 mile per hour wind gusts, some quarter size hail, and an isolated tornado threat here as we go through the mid-afternoon hours. As we go into the early evening, we're just going to see a couple of clusters of showers and storms continue with the threat for damaging winds, large hail, and isolated tornadoes, in addition to some locally heavy downpours and some isolated flash flooding from Wisconsin all the way back into Nebraska and eastern Colorado through the evening hours. And then going into the early morning on Thursday, some of those storms will just continue from Nebraska through Iowa into Minnesota and Wisconsin, enhancing that flooding threat. Now, as we go here across the east, we have a lot of instability here as well across portions of the southeastern United States, like Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida. Over 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability. And here at noon, we're very quiet, but as we go into the mid-afternoon hours, we're going to start to see some showers and thunderstorms develop really after 2 o'clock. These will be isolated at first. The coverage will pick up, so we'll see more numerous storm activity from portions of the Carolinas down into Georgia. And these storms will be moving from mainly north-northeast to south-southwest. They'll be moving here from the northern horizon, so be watching out for some damaging winds. Could be up to 70 miles an hour, some large hail quarter size, and maybe a very low and localized tornado threat, but the tornado threat should remain low down here because the wind shear is very low. Now let's look here at the threat for severe weather tomorrow. A marginal risk in 3 separate areas, one up into Montana, another one from central Michigan all the way back down into southern Kansas, and then from portions of the Delmarva all the way back into Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, eastern Tennessee, including the Cumberland Plateau and the Smoky Mountains vicinity, all the way back down into the entirety of the Sunshine State of Florida, we have a marginal risk of severe weather. In the dark green, that's where isolated severe storms will be possible on Thursday. Damaging winds will be the primary threat, followed by a secondary risk for some quarter-size hail. The hail threat will be most confined from Virginia all the way down into eastern Mississippi and Alabama. Again, the heat at the surface and aloft will prevent the hail growth growth from really getting out of hand. And then tomorrow, the good news is we are less than 2% for tornadoes. So it's mainly just a wind threat with those storms as we go on Thursday. So looking here at Thursday at the central United States, Thursday morning could have some isolated to scattered thunderstorm activity there in the high plains and into the upper Midwest. Remnant activity from tonight into tomorrow morning at daybreak. By late morning, we're going to start to see some showers and storms develop, and that will continue into the early afternoon. From Waterloo down there toward Des Moines and getting into the Omaha vicinity, could be seeing some damaging winds, large hail, and a very low tornado risk. Locally heavy downpours, and then a line of storms will kind of really grow upscale. So from La Crosse down there towards Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, and getting into the Kansas City area, we're going to see a line of storms evolve through Iowa, Wisconsin, and northwestern Missouri. That could pose a risk for more widespread damaging wind potential up to 60 or 70 miles per hour, hail, and a very isolated tornado of a spin-up can happen on the leading edge. And then more isolated storm coverage further south you go into Kansas, Oklahoma, and the panhandle there of Texas. That will just continue as we go into the early morning hours on Friday. A lot of those clusters of storms pushing closer to the Mississippi River. Into the eastern U.S. on Thursday morning at daybreak, a couple showers up here into New York, into portions of Connecticut there, and perhaps Long Island. A couple thunderstorms down near the Gulf Coast from Gulfport, Mississippi to Mobile over there toward the Big Bend of Florida. As we go into the mid-morning and late morning hours, those storms will continue there across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and northwestern Florida. Additional isolated, widely scattered storms will develop really anywhere across the eastern U.S. underneath of that ridge as we go into tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. The main window is 2 p.m. to about 9 o'clock, and these could pose a risk for isolated damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour, isolated quarter-size hail, and a very low tornado risk in addition to some torrential downpours out there, which could cause some isolated flash flooding. Finally, as we go into Friday, there's a slight risk of severe weather. That's a 2 out of 5 on the risk scale. Back into the Dakotas, northwest Minnesota, all the way down into northern Nebraska, where scattered severe thunderstorms will be possible. And then another marginal risk from the mid-Atlantic all the way down here into the southeast, including Florida. That's where isolated severe thunderstorms will be possible Friday afternoon and evening in the dark green area. And significant severe weather, notice it's hatched out there across portions of North and South Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, and northern Nebraska. That's where significant severe weather in the form of hurricane-force wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, baseball-size hail, and some stronger tornadoes may be possible as we go into the day on Friday. And we take a look at that here in the northern plains, up into the Dakotas. We got a disturbance moving over top of that ridge through Montana Friday morning. As it intersects a lot of that moist and unstable air, the instability will be very high. We're going to have some wind shear as well. That will provide the threat for supercells on an isolated basis late Friday afternoon after 4 o'clock into North and South Dakota, stretching into the panhandle of Nebraska. Those storms will grow upscale into clusters, which could produce a more enhanced damaging wind threat as it's outflow driven, which means we have a lot of wind on the leading edge of this cluster, and that is pushed by some rain-cooled air. And then we could have some very large hail here up to baseball size and a localized stronger tornado risk. So Friday and Friday night will be a time to watch there in the Dakotas, into northern Nebraska and northwestern Minnesota. Overall, we're talking some very heavy rainfall here into the upper Midwest and northern high plains vicinity. In the orange, we're talking at least 2 inches. In the red, we're talking 3 to 5 inches of rain, stretching from eastern portions of Nebraska through northern Iowa, much of south central and southeastern Minnesota, into west central and north central Wisconsin, stretching into the UP of Michigan. Some localized flash flooding will be possible there. And then going into the east, this is again through Saturday, June 28th, where we could have some localized pockets of over 1 inch or 2 of rain here, favored across the southeast near the Gulf Coast, the mid-Atlantic, and interior sections of the northeast. A little bit more hit and miss from the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley down there toward the mid-south, back toward Arkansas. Now let's look here at the disturbances that could be in our jet stream as we go into this weekend and to start early July. We got a lot of strong flow in our jet stream here across the northern plains and upper Midwest, which will promote more active weather. A stronger piece of energy will move in across the upper Midwest early next week. We're talking between Sunday and Tuesday. This could offer the threat for some significant severe weather, as it in tandem will be tapping into some very high amounts of energy early next week as a cold front comes through, and that could provide the threat for thunderstorm clusters and maybe even a derecho. This is a setup that could favor that, which is a fast-moving line of storms producing widespread damaging winds, hail, and embedded tornadoes in addition to some torrential rainfall. That's something we'll watch as we go into the weekend and early next week, and then more thunderstorm cluster activity into the eastern U.S. as we go to the middle of next week by Wednesday, July 2nd. Getting closer to the 4th of July, it looks like we have another threat for more clusters of storms evolving from the plains into the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Great Lakes. That could bring more severe weather in the form of damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Now, looking here as we go into the first 7 days of July, it looks like the ridge will break down from north to south, which will provide a threat for some relief from the heat in the form of showers and storms. Some of these could produce some heavy rainfall, but additionally some severe weather across the southern plains into the southeast and east coast, where areas up into the upper Midwest will get a bit of a break here as we get into the later half of the first week of July. Areas from the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP and Michigan will be drying out just a little bit. Now, our ridge of high pressure here into the east is going to provide us with more heat again, yes, today, and that will continue as we go through later this week and into the upcoming weekend. Notice it's flattening out a little bit, which means it's going to be breaking down some of that extreme heat we've been seeing the past couple of days, but that is still going to be bringing some record heat. You know, New York City yesterday actually broke a record. 100 degrees temperature is actually broke a record dating back all the way to 1888, which was very, very long ago. So that just tells you how hot it is out there. More triple digits down in Virginia and the Carolinas as we go into this afternoon. 90s all across the south central U.S. You can see where that boundary is in that rain-cooled air. Minnesota, Wisconsin, UP and Michigan today and tomorrow are going to be in the 60s and 70s for highs, where areas on the southern side of that boundary are going to get very hot in the 90s and triple digits. The heat will return into the upper Midwest as we go into Saturday, June 28th and Sunday, June 29th for a time before another cold front comes through, brings more refreshing but still humid air into the 70s across portions of the upper Midwest as we go into Tuesday, July 1st. And then Phoenix, multiple days in Phoenix there where we could be pressing 110, 115, and even 125 perhaps in Death Valley. So very, very hot temperatures out there, that is for sure. Let's look at your tropical weather update. In the East Pacific Ocean, the National Hurricane Center has a very likely 80% chance of Tropical Storm Flossie being named over the next 7 days, most likely this weekend into early next week. And so we're taking you and looking here at the tropical wave that is moving across the Central Americas westward into the East Pacific. Notice Flossie really doesn't get organized until right around Sunday, June 29th, as that tropical wave moves off of the Central Americas. And even so, right now is a little bit uncertain whether how organized it'll be. Will it be a weaker tropical depression? Will it be a tropical storm that's stronger? Will it be a hurricane? That is the main question right now. We'll keep an eye on that. And we're going to have to watch the moisture trajectory with this. If this shifts further to the north toward the Baja, this could actually bring some heavy moisture to Arizona and New Mexico and West Texas again, which would help out with the significant drought in those areas. But if it goes further west, we would have less moisture in those areas and the drought would continue to worsen much more significantly. Finally, looking here at the Atlantic Ocean, the National Hurricane Center that was named Andrea in the north central Atlantic has since weakened as a trough has kind of engulfed it and weakened it out. But we have had our first tropical storm of the season in the North Atlantic Ocean. Right now, over the next 7 days, is quiet. So the Atlantic Basin, including the Caribbean and the Gulf, over the next 7 days, not expecting any named storms out there. That is for sure. And to wrap it up, any fire weather risk today is elevated, mainly across northwestern Nevada and southeastern Oregon. Just make sure you're mindful of that here for any open burning out there, that wildfires can spread rapidly into northwestern Nevada and southeastern Oregon as we go through the next 24 hours. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel first and foremost so you get the latest accurate, reliable weather information daily on my channel. Like the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps to get all of this vital information to more and more people. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like. Share it with a friend, family member on social media. Just another way to promote this video out to more and more people so they get aware of the weather and the severe weather, most importantly, that we could be seeing over the next few days. You got any comments, questions, concerns? Jot them down in the comment section down below this video. We're here 24/7, all day, all night to answer any and all questions, comments, concerns you have. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. That's all the weather I got for today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Wednesday out there.